This is non-traditional board. Hey, this is NT Board Games official podcast. I Can Deal, and I'm Adam as always, and with me,
always CJ.
Yes, always CJ. This is sadly we don't have a guest. We are doing it at a different time, and we didn't bother. At least I didn't bother reaching out to anybody.
So Alyssa was actually interested, but she is sick. And one, we didn't want her to get us sick, and two, she should probably just take care of herself.
Yeah.
So.
I'm also worried that I'm going to potentially get sick from somebody else.
God damn it, you people.
No, I don't get sick. Other people get me sick. And it's normally like my nieces and nephew and the girlfriend and people.
I've surprisingly been rather healthy this winter. That's me knocking on wood.
Yes. So this episode 34, we will be talking about expansions and I guess an extension, maybe standalone expansions and maybe season continuers like Pandemic Legacy.
Oh, God, why do we have to keep going back to this?
Because they keep on making them.
It's fine.
That's why.
No, we can do that.
Well, the only reason I bring up Pandemic Legacy 2 is because the Legacy 2, like, more details have just popped up about, like, the plot of it. And it just makes me shake my head and just roll my eyes. Like, really? You just... But anyways, expansions.
So I'm gonna kick us off with a very simple question. Do you like them?
Yes and no.
Okay. Why yes and why no?
Yes, because I mean you're getting more, and especially if you like the game, you're getting more, and especially if like sometimes it feels like you're buying a whole new game. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's priced that way too, but. And this is really silly, but hopefully it all fits in the original box, so you're not creating more space, but it feels like you're getting a new game.
Yeah.
So I like that. I don't like that because sometimes I feel the completionist, like I need all the expansions, but I don't
play with them.
Yeah, don't get the chance to play with all of them. Like Simurgh, I got the game. I mean, I kickstarted and I got the expansion with it, but I don't know if I'll ever get around to playing like. Half the box because it's a modular expansion. Like you want to play with this board, you want to play with these tiles. Like outside of like the tiles, you just randomly throw in, like, oh look, it's different picture. Okay, but like the wizard sorcery board that like makes the game twice as large. It's bad enough trying to get people to play the base game and then be able to progress to that game.
I'm not going to agree on all fronts. So. And this might be
podcast done.
Yeah, podcast first. We agree. Done. No, so we have, like, obviously, when you enjoy a game, you want to have as much of that game as you can.
Yes.
Potentially, depending on certain scenarios. But I'll get to those. Well, cash being one of them, but, I mean, seriously, we've never been want for spending money on games.
Yep.
And our situation might be a little bit different because we spend a lot of our time teaching games to people.
True.
And you never, or at least I very rarely throw people into the expansion when I'm first teaching a game. Mm-hmm. Like, I will always just start with base game, let people learn it, and then incrementally add stuff to it. With a few exceptions. And in a lot of those cases, those exceptions, and this kind of gets into, like, what type of expansion is it? There are some expansions that feel like they're completing the game, and there are some expansions that feel like they are adding to the game.
Okay. Examples, do you have them?
I do have an example.
Sweet.
Blood Rage.
Wait, which one is this? Or is this both?
They both, like, so the 5th player expansion adds nothing to the game aside from it finishes the game. Like, it could have been part of the base and just been completely fine. It just allows more people. In fact, adding more people to a game is not an expansion in my opinion. Like, if it was balanced for that many players to begin with, include that in the fucking base game, people. Like, seriously, I don't want to get pissed off about this, but it's not adding anything.
Yeah.
With the exception of adding different mechanics that allow for those additional people, which in certain cases are necessary. But then you also have these 2 other expansions, which don't change the nature of the game. Well, one of them doesn't change the nature of the game, and one of them absolutely changes the nature of the game.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Mystics of Midgard, which are just additional troops. They might as well just be like a mini expansion.
Yeah,
and
well, they do a little different things.
A little different things.
Yeah,
not much. And if if those cards never come up or never get used, tough tits. They don't actually change anything in the game. Like they could just like be a non addition.
Yeah.
However, the Gods of Asgard expansion, that absolutely changes the nature of the game because it changes like the nature in which battles occur in those situations. You can actually strategically move the gods in certain areas to gain advantage or screw everybody else over. That right there is when I'm talking about expansions that I enjoy. Those are the kinds of expansions that I'm talking about, like that change the nature of the game for a game that I'm already kind of intimately familiar with.
Got it. I've only played with the Wizard, whatever.
The Mystics.
Mystics. And somebody who's playing, Gerardo was playing as them, and I think he was focusing too much on them, but like it became like, it almost seemed like it was a negative thing to play with them, but like I haven't played as the god, so I have no clue what you're talking about, or play with the...
Yeah, so they'll just be gods on the table. They're not controlled by anybody. If battles occur where the gods are located, it changes the outcome of... It can change the outcome of the battle just by them being present.
Okay.
And then every time you have a battle in their location, they are forced to move to an adjacent location.
Got it.
So you can strategically kind of like push them around the board.
Multiple gods in the same place or no?
You cannot have multiple gods in the same space. And they cannot die in Ragnarok.
They just move to a new place.
Yes.
Makes sense.
So yeah. But those are just like... And that one game has the 3 different types of examples of what an expansion is.
Yeah.
One that is not an expansion. Not really.
Yeah.
One that is a mini expansion. It changes nothing about the game
Just
or the way
add
the game
more
is played. Content, heavy air quotes around content. It adds something, but not. It adds nothing to the game itself. It just adds more components.
Got it.
And then something that, small or big, drastically changes the strategy or the way in which you approach a game.
Got it. So where would, say, Eldritch Horror fall on the line of these?
Well, those are interesting because Eldritch Horror and
Arkham? I've never played Arkham Horror, so I don't know.
Same thing.
Yeah, I didn't know if...
Or Imperial Assault, or any of those, where it is explicitly content-driven. Is when I mean content, I mean story and text-driven. Missions,
yeah.
etc. That stuff you have to keep producing because they'll get played out. Like, you'll just run out of new stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like Blood Rage where the content isn't the story. The content is the other players. So...
Well, they have the skirmish.
Yeah, but those will always be determined by like the draft and like the strategy that they're trying to go for and so on and so forth. So yeah, for stuff that's like content driven, like those story driven games, it's I almost feel like they're at a disadvantage, or anybody who's trying to collect them is at a disadvantage because they consistently have to keep putting stuff out.
Yeah.
To kind of keep their game relevant.
Yeah. And not stale.
Yeah.
I agree. Partially for Eldritch Horror. And that mindset is... I would like to buy an expansion of just like more like encounter cards.
Mm-hmm.
I have enough bosses. That's why I stopped buying expansions. But like especially depending on like your game, you might go through all the city encounters, and you're like, oh look, I actually had a game where they went through one type of card all the time, and we started getting duplicates, or like one person was getting duplicates just because they were doing the same thing over and over again. So, whereas, like, I don't think it's that stale with the extra boards and the bosses.
Those are interesting.
But as I said, the encounters, because 100 cards or 50 cards each deck, you eventually go through. And I probably would think the same thing for Imperial Assaults, but I've only done 2 campaigns.
Well,
campaign and a half because it's the mini campaign. So I mean that is a good point, and it's kind of why I'm glad I have Doom, even though I've only played it once. It's a campaign, but it's not. It's like, oh, you can do these missions, and like they even say, like right before they show the missions, like, oh, if you want to do a custom one, just have the loser pick the next mission. So they're not connected, and there's no winning and losing bonus from going in between.
They're not missions as much as they are just scenarios.
Yes.
You mentioned at the beginning this notion of one that I did not bring up is a standalone expansion.
Yes.
Tell me, when you say standalone expansion, I think I know what you mean. But
Zombicide Season 2. It's if you bought Zombicide Season 2, you get a box, you can play the whole game by yourself. I mean, yes, by yourself, but like you can play the entire game. You don't need anything else. That's why I mean by standalone expansion. Or Last Night on Earth Timber Peak. You can add in but is...
So what... Do you consider those expansions, or do you just consider those compatible games?
That is a good question. Well, for the sake of Zombicide, I thought of it as compatible. I mean, as expansion.
Okay.
More zombies, more, and then the fact that now I just do Giants, Capture the Flag, Zombicide, that it is expansion, literally. It's like, what, I don't... should just throw out the rule books. I only keep them just in case I need to look up about the Berserkers or the Toxic people again, which I forgot to put the Toxic people in last time, but whatever. But like Last Night on Earth, Timber Peak, I kind of think of that as a sequel, as in, and I won't bust out the original Last Night on Earth, because like this one has upgrades, and with the Blood in the Forest, it's kind of like it's got its own set game. So I don't know. Like, I'm not going to get rid of the original because it's kind of like, I feel like it's like my first, like the first board game I owned as an adult. So it's kind of like it's a treasure. It's a precious. But that's how I guess it's case by case scenario depending on the game. I don't think the Alien deck builder, Legendary Counters, I don't think it's a standalone expansion, but like I would think of that if I were to get, I would think of that as an expansion, not as its sequel or second game.
Okay. Gotcha. What would you consider to be your favorite expansion? Not standalone.
Yeah.
But like
I had that question saved up for you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's for you.
I can answer it.
I can. Yeah, you answer it and I'll try to think.
I do think I know what your answer is.
Really? Because I don't. I have no clue. But you have yours. I mean, unless you want to tell me what you think mine is.
I think yours is Room 25.
It would be if I played it more. Like, ever since I got the expansion, I've played it less. And it's just because I haven't had time or other people played it. But I think it is a great expansion.
So the game was an interesting game to start.
Yes.
But now it's a complete game. Yeah. Like, and I don't want to say like they released an incomplete game, but they're starting down a road that I'm sure they didn't even know like what the thing was going to end up looking like in the end. And they put out a solid piece that put everything together. Like the custom powers and like the additional characters and the
Colored
additional
minis.
rooms, the colored minis, like everything about it just kind of felt whole.
Yeah.
Like they listened to everybody when the first one came out, and they're like, yeah, we're not done here.
Yeah.
And they put out something really solid. Of course, now they're combining it into
One box.
and
Yes.
it's going to be like, that's the game. That's not it's game plus expansion equals game.
Yes. They actually had the original box had an insert that you could put everything in super nicely, but once again, it's a stupid insert. You turn it sideways, everything's gone, and the box was like twice the size. So I just chucked that box, and everything fits in the original box. I mean, it's a tight fit, but it's a smaller box. The only thing that doesn't fit is the new instructions.
Got it.
But yeah, I haven't thought about that game. Sadly, I need to bust it out. It's a teamwork game. I could bring it next Sunday.
Da, da, da.
I'm going to think of I'm sure I can think of another one that I enjoyed more.
So I have one that's actually a standalone expansion and fits the definition of a standalone expansion pretty well. So Among the Stars Revival.
Okay.
Was it Revival? It's the one that was the 2-player version.
Yeah.
But you could take those cards and add it to the original. And it's essentially the same game, except they specially modded this version of the game for 2 players. But they added an entirely new different type of mechanic called ships, where you could actually interact with other people's bases by planting ships on the outside of it, preventing them from building in those locations.
Got it.
And then there's other cards that like gain you benefits for removing ships or how many ships you have at your station. So you could potentially like be giving them not only blocking them but giving them points depending on what strategy they're going for. It was a really interesting expansion. It added a lot to the game, more than just say like a reskinning of Seven Wonders.
Yeah.
Which I loved that anyway. Especially since it was like it had a lot more spatialness.
There's an
to it.
extra step instead of just taking cards. Like, I took this card, here we go.
Yeah.
But you take a card and you have to place it somewhere. And you gotta try to think ahead, even though you don't see what's coming to you.
And then like adding one, being able to play that with 2 players is great because sometimes I just only have myself and one other person to play. And then also being able to take that new mechanic and add it to the game where you have direct interaction with somebody was also super interesting. For right now, I'm going to go with that as my favorite expansion.
Okay.
Not my favorite game,
Yeah.
but something that I think they did smartly and interestingly, and I'm glad I picked it up. As opposed to, like, say, Ambassadors or any of the others where I still haven't played it, and I don't know if I ever will, because it just adds, like, a level of complexity to a game that's already a little bit difficult to explain. So,
I mean, that's another fear of not Ambassadors, expansions in general. Like, I can't think of the game I'm talking about, but do you ever feel nervous about buying into a game that already has expansions? Like, the game's already been out, obviously. Like, oh, look, there's a bunch of expansions for this game. Does that encourage you? Because that means, hey, this game, it's good enough to get expansions.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
I will say that I have maybe backed off on straight up buying the expansions when I buy the game.
Got it.
Because I learned my lesson with Race for the Galaxy.
Got it.
I bought Race for the Galaxy. I played it a couple times. I enjoyed it. I bought the expansions. Never played the expansions. In fact, I haven't even played the base game since I got the expansions. Except once. But it was all with new people, and so I couldn't bring out the expansion because like it adds like another layer of complexity to like what is, again, not an uncomplex game. It's just you have to have those people that know the game before you just add the new layer. The game's been out for long enough that it makes sense for people who've been playing it for a long time to add that new layer.
Yeah.
But I'm not there yet. And I've been eyeing the Cyclades expansions, which are not inexpensive. And I'm like, I've played Cyclades twice.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I really love Cyclades. I would love to play it more. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to bust those out ever. Same thing with Mare Nostrum. They have an entirely extra board that you can tack onto the existing board for Spain. Or Gaul, I guess it were. I think that would be freaking awesome. Am I ever going to get to use it?
Do you have that expansion?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
Are you just eyeing it?
I'm eyeing it. It's also kind of expensive. It's about as much as the base game.
Well, it adds a whole nother board. Does it add another character, or...
Yeah. Adds another...
So is that 6 or 7?
That would be a 7?
I forget if it's a 6-player game or not.
I think it's a 6-player game, so I think it... I'm going to have to look... I'll look it up later.
Got it.
But, adds another player.
Yeah.
Adds another board. And adds... something else. It adds like a new mechanic.
More gods? More...
it might add gods, because in the first one it didn't have gods, it just had heroes. Or historical leaders. This one might add gods and mythological creatures, which takes the game to a more fantastic level. But I don't remember.
Have you ever had a time where you feel the game is complete, like you enjoy playing the game, you feel it's complete, but then you know that more stuff could be added? And
well, those are two. Those are contradictory statements in my mind. If a game's complete, I do not feel like anything could be added.
All right. I guess I'll just have to spill the beans. Do you think Bloodborne is a complete game?
No?
No?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's fine for what it is. It just feels a little light.
Okay.
Like, light on monsters.
Okay.
Light on weapons. Light on bosses.
Like, I feel the game is complete enough, but there's an expansion coming. They just announced an expansion. And I feel it's complete. Like, hey, here's a game, and I didn't expect more. I was like, hey, I got most of it, but I did notice, because I played Bloodborne, I like Bloodborne a lot, the video game.
Yep.
Missing bosses, missing enemies. Of course it's missing enemies, but you're not necessarily going to get all of them. Right. Missing weapons. I don't know what's going to be in the expansion, but I feel the game is complete, but this is adding more. I mean, it could make it seem more complete with more monsters.
Yeah, and that one's just a little different because you're adding content more than you're adding mechanic. Well, of course, it does add something that changes the mechanic of it.
I mean, the inserts got empty spaces for stuff. Of course, adding more cards, they're not going to fit, and I'm going to get rid of the insert. Because the cards won't fit in the insert already. Is that a hesitation? I mean, I know I asked you a question that you didn't answer, but is that a hesitation getting a new expansion because you're worried about where you're going to store it?
As trite as that sounds, absolutely. I want, like, the new Clank expansion's coming out.
Yeah.
That one looks fun. It's like an underwater sea monster kind of
Sunken
scenario.
treasure or something like that?
And that's like an interesting thing. Instead of a dungeon, you're, like, in a sunken cavern. That's a new twist, and I can imagine, like, all the different kinds of
swimming
cards, running out of breath cards. Like all those things, like, it's not going to fit in the original box. Impossible to fit in the original box, unless, of course, they give you a new insert in the new box, or the new box is just big enough to fit everything, and you just toss the old box. It is not going to fit because they've built the original box just so that it fits everything perfectly. Tyrants of the Underdark
mostly
fits perfectly if you don't sleeve it.
Yeah.
Or crumble. But they're coming out with a very small expansion. like a mini expansion
Yeah.
per se, and that's just like a deck of cards, 2 decks of cards, that's technically. But
Once you open them and sleeve them,
well, I can't sleeve them,
Yeah.
because I can't sleeve the original, unless of course you get rid of that insert,
yeah,
and then I sleeve everything. But yeah, if that occurs, then I won't fit in the box. It won't. Even just the 2 decks, just because the insert they gave you only just fits what you got.
Now, it would be interesting if they planned more expansions for Clank, and the expansion box was made to hold future expansions. How would you feel about that? All your expansions in one box, base game in another box?
I will say, and we've talked about this for the box insert episode.
Oh, yeah.
I love Broken Token and the way that they allow you to build, or they have the builds for the insert to your box that allows for expansions and keeping your base set separate from your expansion sets.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to like shift and shuffle through all of your card decks to see like, where's all the stuff for this expansion, because I don't want to play with it because it's super complicated and I'm teaching people. I wish game companies understood this to begin with, and included like that sort of roadmap for their product. Of course, they run the risk of like after releasing it not doing so well, and then maybe never releasing everything else,
or suffer the wrath of people complaining. It's like, what's all this extra space? Oh, they're just trying to nickel and dime us with expansions.
I mean, you could wait for the $150 game to buy it one time.
True.
Or you could just not buy the expansion if you don't feel like it adds anything meaningful to the game. Mm-hmm. Which I guess is my second question. Is there a game that has an expansion that you will not buy because you don't feel it adds anything to it? And I'm discounting mini expansions and promos.
You mean like Imperial Assault expansion characters?
Yeah.
Yeah. Although they do have some cards that you can use for other characters, so. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I will not count them. On the same note, I feel like a contradicting Eldritch Horror. Like, I feel that some of the next small box expansion, I was like, do I really need it? I mean, I don't know if that's more of a question of personal need versus like people feel like they need the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that really all depends on how much you play that one, because content-driven expansions like that are.
Well, then that's a prime example. Like Eldritch Horror, like I've pretty much stopped buying them. Like I'm almost tempted to the Pyramid, but I'm just like I don't know how it's stored all, or maybe the Dream World. Mainly Pyramid because I like that whole Egyptian era stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't think I necessarily think I need that expansion for multiple reasons. Like, I have enough bosses. Sure, the cards can get old, but, play with different people, wait a while before you're playing, and I don't know if it's going to add more to it.
Got it.
So that's and I'm proud to say, like, Eldritch Horror, there's a game, there's a bunch of expansions, really good content, or, like, quality material content, and I can say, no, I'm not buying that, no. Unlike when Star Wars.
But, and at the same time, like, you also have the option, if I only wanted to play Eldritch Horror from now on and never play any other game, you would never run out of new things to play in that game.
Maybe. Depends on how dedicated we play. I feel like if we played it once a week for at least a couple months, I think it wouldn't be too long before we went through everything.
Okay. I don't know, man. Like, I played Arkham Horror like every week for half a year, 9 months, maybe, a long time. It had 14 gods, and even after playing each god once, like we still wanted a rematch because sometimes they ate us.
Well, I see. I mean, I don't know exactly how Arkham goes, but I can see we would want to try the gods again, but then we would probably get tired and get too many repeat encounter cards. And then kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that didn't bother us when we were playing Arkham. Yeah, I still have yet to win in a game of Eldritch.
Didn't we win one?
No.
I thought we did. Like against the Wendigo or something?
I thought we lost. Or we lost on a technicality. Like, we actually won, but we cheated.
Maybe. That sounds more likely to be true.
And we didn't know that we were cheating. I feel like we had, like, some special thing that got rid of the boss monster, and we couldn't actually have done that.
Well, we also did play, our bunch of our first couple rounds or games, or most of our games, we were cheating because when you go to a combat, you're only allowed to use one item. Not, I'm going to roll 20 dice because I have 20 things. I have an axe and a gun and a book, so I can roll 4 dice, or 20 dice. You're only allowed to use one item. And that's in the base rules that we overlooked.
Wow.
So that changes things considerably. That's why they only give you 4 dice, because chances are you're not going to be rolling over 4 dice. There are a few exceptions, but yeah. So what about you? Is there any games that, I guess you sort of mentioned... Well, is there any games that you refuse to purchase the expansion?
Refuse. I'm trying to think if there's a game, like the base game. Yeah, you know what? There is. As per usual, this is a game we won't shut up about. I refuse to buy any expansions for Battlestar Galactica.
You didn't like New Caprica?
I think the base game is perfect.
Okay.
Like, some people really like the ability to murder one another, like to blow people out the airlock and like to shoot people with. It seems kitschy to me. Uh-huh. It doesn't feel like it. It actually feels like it detracts a little bit from the game.
Okay. It's not focusing on the hidden roll as much?
Well, if it does focus on the hidden roll, it removes the consensus building that you're required to make.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it allows somebody to just go rogue and just murder somebody. Especially like with certain characters, like they have the ability just to off people as like a once per game or something. That removes a lot of the consensus and the paranoia about it. Like, sure, it adds like, oh, did he shoot them because he's a Cylon and like, it's I think the base game was perfect. I like the pacing. I like the character options. I think the new games were added because the show itself evolved.
Yeah.
And like they wanted to add all those characters in the later seasons and so on and so forth. And they made new mechanics based around that, which thematically were interesting. But I think they peaked at the base game.
Got it.
And all of the new stuff was just kind of, it's the same game, only different.
Mm-hmm.
Kinda.
So is there anything they could... I mean, I'm sure they're done with expansions and because the
I hope so.
show is done. Is there anything they could do to make you want to buy an expansion? I know you think
Battlestar specifically?
Yeah, Battlestar. Because that's one game you're like, nope, this is good. I mean, there might not be, obviously you might not be able to think of it. And they could. but I'm pretty sure they're not going to make it more.
No. No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
All right. I believe Seasons is another game that I refuse to buy more expansions. There's like one more expansion or two. I forget.
Do you have any?
I think I have one. I forget if they made 2 or 3. I have one. Another one they added another dice, but like I still have a sealed pack of advanced cards from the base game in the box.
You haven't opened it?
Because like it comes with like the basic cards, and then it comes with advanced cards, and I still have it. It's just I haven't played it as much.
Got it.
And I haven't felt the need, so I could always open that for expansion. Like, ooh, new cards. I mean, I could see if you're hardcore playing Seasons.
I mean, so there are games that I want to get the expansions, and I have not and probably won't until I start playing the base game a lot more. Terra Mystica and Cyclades are prime examples of that. But yeah, like, so if Inish or Cry Havoc release expansions, I'll probably jump on those almost immediately, because I've played those games. I really love those games. And I can see, well, at least for Inish, I can see like how that might completely alter the way the game is played. Cry Havoc, I see it as more like mini expansions or promos.
Yeah.
Just kind of like adding different flavor to the cards or whatnot.
The different shaped units.
Maybe.
Now, would you? How do you feel about purely cosmetic expansions?
Oh, you mean like
Yes.
Eclipse?
Yeah.
Where the ship expansion just adds different. No, I don't. No.
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 That's not for you.
No.
So you wouldn't buy like. You wouldn't buy one of those, I guess, almost third party, but they're recognized by first party component upgrade expansions.
No.
I mean, they're not really expansions.
Nope.
No,
They aren't really expansions. They're novelties at
But
that
it's
point.
expanding your game.
It's not. It offers nothing new. Like alternate art cards are another example. Like Star Realms and like the White Wizard folk have this like, oh, it's an alternate art card. It could give a fuck. Like it offers. It's not even a new card. It's the same card with different art on it. It's a collectible.
Yeah.
It's a toy.
What's it called? Fantasy Flight does it a lot with their X-Wing tournaments and the Star Wars tournaments, where like they'll like, oh, here's a Darth Vader. Like for X-Wing and Star Wars Destiny, they have alternate art, and they actually, this is even worse, is they have the Star Wars language written, the entire card, so you can't read it unless you know the language.
So it's interesting, kind of going on that notion, and this part I actually do like. For tournaments, they will sometimes commission local artists to custom paint certain ships for like X-Wing or Armada or something, and like offer that as like the prize of a trophy.
Oh, that's nice.
That's really cool. That is not an alternate art item. That is a custom job. Like that's not something that's just coming off the press and like they just need to make more of them. Like no, that's some dude like putting some time and effort and art and professionality. And yeah, I think those are really cool. We kind of got off topic. That's not an expansion. That's just like a fun little thing.
I guess I steered us down this rabbit hole with the tokens, but I feel that is still expanding the game. Anything that you're adding to the game and the intent to create a better experience, whether it's through gameplay, different units, colored units. Like I would almost consider painting miniatures being an expansion because it brings new life and flavor to the game. So I think the components, especially if you upgrade the components by a lot, I feel like that adds more to a game. And it might not. Granted, it's not the same as adding a new mode or a new location, but I think I consider them
enhances the gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think enhancement is kind of the same. Was what an expansion is supposed to do.
It's supposed to. I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's absolutely supposed to. That's
Yeah.
the point of it. I don't know.
It's a slippery slope, I know.
It's not even a slippery slope. It's just that I don't know. Like, sometimes I don't even know if like having painted miniatures enhances my experience. Like, playing with the painted miniatures for Blood Rage didn't change my.
Yeah.
Like, I got to oogle like his paint jobs
Mm-hmm.
and like, ooh, those are really nice.
Yeah.
And then the moment they hit the board, it automatically reverted to what it was before, which is that token.
I don't 100% disagree, but outside of the Brown team, I felt they stood out and it was a slightly different experience.
Okay.
So a lot of why I paint is more so to make it easier for the players to play. And that's before I even played Doom, I painted the Marines because there are 4 Marines almost in the exact same poses. They just have different weapons, and it was going to be hard to tell them apart. So I painted them, and all their bases are different colors, and their armor is different, and painted different. So that, I think, helps people figure out, okay, that's mine, instead of having 4 gray Marines, and like the monsters, who cares if they're... I mean, they're actually, I feel like, bigger and more detailed than the Marines, so it's kind of...
Well, they should be. Demons are gnarly.
Well, like imps. Don't necessarily... Anyways, since they're so clean of their detail, I almost feel like they don't need to be painted. Whereas the Marines, I think it made the game pop.
Yep.
And helpful. And why I painted the Stormtroopers, because I have 9 Stormtroopers. This one's, and I didn't want to do stickers.
Yeah. I like what you did with Stormtroopers, and I think it makes sense because you have different squads. And,
Yeah.
trying to keep them all together is kind of a little bit of a bear.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Has there ever been an expansion that you've gotten that has actually detracted from the game?
Yes. So much so that I didn't even try playing it.
Uh-huh.
And I could be wrong, and maybe I need to look at it again and actually play it, but Resident Evil deck building game.
Yep.
I have the base game. I skipped the second expansion. I bought the third expansion, and it came with this nice little... It came with a box to hold everything, and the box was smaller than both the other boxes.
Okay.
Anyways, it added a gameplay mode that I didn't want anything to do with, and it's called like Infected. And it added, since, as our case is, we usually don't get to play the games as much and can't get to higher levels of play. I felt like adding Infected and turning to zombies, where it sounds cool, I feel like I couldn't play it, and I don't want to play it.
Okay.
And most of the cards are pretty much pointless now because a lot of the heroes are like, oh, if you're infected, you get less. It takes more to infect you or less to infect you. So there's all this content that I won't be playing. That. Oh, and more. The biggest example is probably Antidote. Though I don't know if you would call it that because the expansions came in the base game.
Yeah, I mean, I get their alternate play styles.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like saying that. What was it? Total Recall.
Yeah, playing the base game and not the advance.
The new version and the real version of the game.
All right, then I have a better example.
Yep.
Good Cop, Bad Cop.
Okay, no, I was
Bombs
actually
and Traitors.
waiting for you to bring this one up.
We both have all 3 versions.
Mm-hmm.
I still even have my original that comes in a little tiny tuck box, which I think that's great. I don't like how it's in a giant box now, although there's more stuff. But Bombs and Traitors, I feel like I would only play that if it was 3 of us, 4 of us, and we had to play that game. But Undercover seems like it actually adds a little bit to the game.
I think Undercover adds a lot to the game. It's it makes it a lot more interesting, a lot more dynamic. I think Going back to Room 25, I think that is the true version of the game. Like I think they released the game not too early, but they released the game in like that was like the beta stage. Like they kind of like put it out there, people started playing it, came back with feedback, and they just started like actively developing on making that game better. And I think they finally hit it with Undercover, where that feels like the complete game to me.
My only issue, and I don't know how you solve this or if you've played it as much to...
I've not played it that much.
Okay. Well, how do you handle the equipment deck? Because it's kind of like 3, and like, do you put just 2 of them together, or do you just put all of them together, or do you... Like, I have them separated, but like, I need to figure out how I want to do the equipment deck.
I've taken some cards out permanently.
Okay.
Especially the ones that got like rewritten or added.
Oh, so the old versions are gone?
Old versions, most of the old versions are gone. I think some of them have stuck around. Also, like, I think I don't remember which ones they were, but some cards were clearly like replacements for others, but they were named different things. Like, especially like the 2 Kickstarter expansions that came with Undercover, like they added 2 different equipment decks, and I was like, holy fuck balls! Like, there's a lot of equipment now. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I might try to play variations where you can actually hold on to multiple equipments, because the only one equipment at a time is a little rough. Which coincidentally, that's exactly what Leaders of Euphoria has done. Is that they've eliminated the hand limit of 1.
Is it 2? Or
unlimited?
Oh.
But I think most of the cards... Oh, I don't know yet. I can't say for certain, but I think most of the cards actually require actions to use. So they're not as game-changing. So you're either drawing cards or you're playing cards. Mm-hmm. Again, game hasn't come out yet. That's just conjecture. But once that game comes out, I think that it, before Undercover came out, was totally going to be a replacement for Good Cop, Bad Cop. Because it's nominally the same game.
Well, same people who made it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that Undercover's out and I've gotten a chance to play it, now I feel like I can have 2 very similar games, but the difference in theme means something, and while they play similarly, they have different enough mechanics that make them different games.
Got it.
Yeah. But I still might be getting rid of
Good
Undercover.
Cover. Yeah, we don't play it. We've like overplayed it.
We have overplayed it, and I don't know, like, again, bringing up Secret Hitler, I think the game like those style of games continue to get better. Mm-hmm. I think Good Cop, Bad Cop was better than Resistance.
Yeah.
Or Avalon. I think Resistance Avalon got a little a little bit dull, and maybe that's probably entirely based on the people that I've played with.
Could be,
but yeah, I think Secret Hitler's another one I would never want an expansion to. I think that game's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rebellion is my perfect game. Star Wars.
Star Wars Rebellion.
Star Wars original
trilogy. You know what?
Yeah.
I think I could tolerate them adding another board to that game.
What type of board?
Put Coruscant in the center and have another board like on the opposite end.
So the only problem with that is they would have to use all the expanded universe planets, because I feel like most of them have been taken. But like, what would...
Or they could just add ones from the new movies coming out.
True. But I feel like if they're a whole new board, they'll just do a whole new, like a standalone expansion. But I don't know how that would work, and if that feel like that would just be too much. Like
it's already a lot of game. I do agree with that. But could you ever get too much of that game?
No, but it seems like people are like, oh, what about the like? I just feel like it's designed perfectly. It doesn't need to. I don't see how they could add more.
No, I agree. I think that game is super well balanced, and adding something or changing anything in the game would either need to be so subtle to not even make a difference, or be so dramatic that it's either going to unbalance the game or you're playing an entirely different game.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of what an expansion is supposed to do, is giving you an alternate version of the game that you love. And I can totally see them taking that game and coming out with 2 expansions. Star Wars Resistance.
And Clone Wars.
And then, I suppose, Star Wars Separatists.
I mean, they already have Resistance. It's Rebellion.
Yeah, but they're not called the...
I know. Just ridiculousness. People have thought about that. And, people made expansions like, oh, the custom inserts, like, oh, we made room because they're going to make expansions, but not a peep. Mm-hmm. And I think I would be stoked if this is just another one and done game.
Yeah, I'd be settled. I would be fine with that too. I think they made a very solid game.
Yeah.
I think there are some games that cry out for expansions. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually a little bit surprised. Well, I know why they haven't, and I know why they won't, but I'm a little bit like Forbidden Stars, for example. You could totally add an expansion that adds an entirely new race, allows for a 5th player, adds wormholes or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Warp drives to bounce around the universe a little bit faster, changing the mechanics. That's a game that is a solid game, but it sometimes, as complicated as it is, it seems a little too straightforward. Mm-hmm. I would love to play that game some more, though. I really have a lot of fun playing that game. Just because I know how expansive that universe is. Mm-hmm. I always, give me some fucking Tyranids. That'd be fucking awesome. Or, some Tau, or...
So if you're not aware, it's in the 40k universe, Warhammer 40k, and Fantasy Flight just dropped 40k, or 40...
they separated.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. Who knows who did what or why, but... Yeah, Forbidden Stars is no longer being printed.
Yeah. And that means the big super expansion game is no longer being carried anymore. That's their latest Warhammer Quest. And by super expansion, it's just all those deck builder games like Arkham Horror card game, whatever. It's just because you have to buy. It goes along. It's the same lines as a dungeon crawler, like Imperial Assault.
Well, one thing that we haven't mentioned, this is because you and I really only play one game that fits this model. Well, I guess you play 2 now. Are the games where expansion is treated more like a subscription.
Yeah.
And so now you're playing Star Wars Destiny. Enjoy that world. I am. I hesitate to say I am because I've only played it 4 times. Yeah, but you're buying it.
I invested it. I am on the fence about whether I'll jump onto the new...
If you are going to continue playing that game, it's a requisite. Netrunner, Magic the Gathering, they release expansions, heavy air quotes, expansions. Yeah. They are, and by strict definition, they are expansions. They add upon what's already there.
Yeah.
However, they become a requisite for playing.
Yes.
Especially the community in which you play. If you don't have them, you're boned.
Yes. But what you said there is the magic point there is community. And I have yet to play with a stranger. So therefore, if I don't buy any more, and I just play with people I know, and they're just using my deck, I've cut ties. I believe I am going to try to go.
I would say people don't
This
play
Wednesday.
those games without wanting to be part of the community, though.
I'm not that in depth with the whole like metagame building this huge perfect deck and just like seeing people on forums talking about like, oh, I do this E blah 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 / blah, and that's the name of doing a type of deck, and like they
Theory crafting.
Yeah, theory crafting. They have perfected this deck. Like, oh, this is the perfect deck to use, and people are saying these are like. I don't want to play against those people, and that's my hesitation to going out in the community.
And that's unfortunately that's how those games are played.
Yes, but like if I play like
Same thing with X-Wing and Armada.
yeah,
Honestly, like people have optimization strategies and
yes. I mean, I bought them because they're
Decks
cool ships, and it was easy to play.
pew pew.
And like I could play with Gerardo. Gerardo really likes the game. Worst comes to worst, I could just sell him all my Star Wars Destiny and be like, "Hey, I want to play." He's like, "Oh, okay," and he'll just
And he would just buy them.
yeah, because he's asked me if stores are getting starters and sets in, and they're not because
Everybody's already got them.
yes, and they're just not making enough. Or like they're not being able to keep up with supply and demand. But I am going to try to go back to the Wednesday and see what my experience is like, and if it's ho hum, then I might just cut it off there. If I get really, oh my god, if I see a card from like a future set that I want, maybe I'll just like buy one card off, like buy a single, and just be like, oh, I'll add this, and maybe I'll just do it that way because I don't need the super theory craft. I'm more so buying and playing this game in the same mindset as Galaxy of Heroes on the iOS and apps, where, hey, I have a bunch of Star Wars heroes, they're really cool looking, and I just want to battle other Star Wars and make my own like little storyline, kind of like fan fiction Star Wars Rebellion is. So this, like, I will probably want to get like a Death Trooper from the next expansion booster series.
Yep.
Or Spirit of the Rebellion or something like that. So I want to get the Death Trooper. So instead of spending $90 on a gravity feed of 90 gravity feed of 36 expansions, where I'm going to get like probably 3 more BB-8s that are useless, I can just
So bitter.
Everybody is about that. It's like BB-8 comes in the starter sets. I have 3 BB-8s. That means I got 1 from starter and 2 from boosters. And he's the most common and worthless card. You can't even sell that card. So, I'm going to have the dice for it. Anyways, point is, I probably, unless like this Wednesday goes amazingly, I'll probably just call it quits there. And just, I mean, that actually, now that I'm talking about it, sounds better. Know my limits. Cut it off where I can. And
Probably not a bad idea. Yeah. Anyway, expansions.
yes,
So I mean, yeah.
a big reason why I thought of this expansion is because of something happened this week. So on Kickstarter, they announced 2 expansions for a highly rated game, Champions of Midgard. I had written it off not because I heard it was bad or I don't like Vikings, which is both
Untrue.
are the opposite. It's more so I was just like, oh, I have so many games. I have worker placements. And then this expansion just kind of was like, oh, well, I can get a good deal on this stuff, and the expansion is supposed to add something about, like, mountains. Valhalla, and I think snow mountains or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. Don't know the game.
Never played the game.
Yes. So, have you ever had that where, like, you hear about awesome expansions, or you see expansions, and you're like, oh, should I be interested in this game?
I mean, that occasionally happens. I'm trying to think of cases where I got... Like, Kickstarter is a really good example of this because they'll bundle them together
Yeah.
in frequent cases. I think Good Cop, Bad Cop might be the only time that I was like, oh, let me jump on that.
Well, partially because we had played it 20,000
I know I'd already
times.
played it enough, and I knew that was a game that I kind of wanted to have around. Maybe the other one... Here's the other tricky part. It kind of piggybacks on this. Is the notion of like when kickstarting a game, kickstarting it with like the first 2 or 3 expansions, and you can buy like the bundle.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like they're intentionally selling you an incomplete game the first time around.
Yeah.
And it really kind of depends. So Deep Madness, for example, like you can buy 2 expansions or in addition to like the base
Add-ons or like
add-ons, exactly.
do a pledge level and you get everything.
Yep. Now, and that game is like a Dungeon Delver. It's a content-driven story game.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff makes sense. Like, I'm still just going to go for the base set one because I doubt that I'll play that enough to warrant
Go through all the
go
stories.
through it. Yeah. And to bang for my buck, like the base set, they included like a metric fuck ton of stuff in that.
All the miniatures.
All of them in it. It was like 169 miniatures for $100, and they all look wicked as sin. Like, I'm really excited for this game. But then you have games like what is it? God's War, which I've talked about a couple times.
Yep.
Where the base set comes with 4 factions.
Yeah.
And then you can buy the Empire's expansion that adds another 5 factions. And I was like, serious? Like, you're selling us half a game.
Mm.
Because the game plays up to 6,
But you have to buy the extra expansions.
but you have to buy the expansion to play it. And some of the expansions like really neat, but they don't add anything to the game mechanically aside from the different mechanics that each faction brings. There are other expansions that they've added, like monsters, and
This is not a faction. It's just like monsters that fight.
right. So they add new stuff to the board, kind of like the difference between the 5th player expansion to Blood Rage
And Mystics.
no, the gods.
Okay.
So the monsters just kind of hang out on the board. They do special things, and you can manipulate them or fight them and gain rewards.
Got it.
And that adds a new mechanic to the game. There's another one. It's Lost. I don't know. Fuck. It's another expansion that adds like the ability to recruit neutral parties. Like they're kind of hang out in the Empire.
Okay.
And like you can enlist them onto your side. And they're up for grabs for anybody, but sometimes they require you to do a special thing before they'll like join your side or whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a neat expansion as well.
Yes.
Both of those are legit expansions. The one where it just adds more factions, I can understand if like they want to put out the base game, have that be out for a couple of years, and then like boom, here's another thing that just like changes everything.
Yeah.
That's fine, but you're releasing them at the same time. Like, I
Even
guess
before they're released.
I guess maybe it's a price break, like,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It feels like it was.
Did you skip those expansions?
No, I got
Okay.
because it felt I skipped the monsters and the neutral.
Oh.
I got the ones with because that's what the full game is. Like I couldn't.
You said you skipped the one with the monsters, so
Yeah.
you didn't get. You're not getting the monsters.
I'm not getting the monsters one.
Okay.
Because I mean that's like an additional part of the game.
Now, what is this a skirmish type of game? You're
It's
just like
very much-
fighting each other.
Kind of. It's a lot like Blood Rage, in that you have a map and you got dudes on the board kind of thing, and you're trying to gain points.
Okay.
And by battling people, you gain certain points, and by the cards that you have, changes like the strategy that you're going to use. The biggest difference, however, is that instead of drafting your cards, each faction already has their set powers.
Okay.
That
Unique abilities.
is essentially like when you play the Sky faction, you always play the Sky faction in a very certain way because that's the strategy for that. It's a very asymmetric game.
Got it.
Unlike Blood Rage, where the asymmetry only explicitly comes into play when you're drafting the cards. So you can manipulate other people's strategy by hate drafting, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, I could understand. I was thinking it was like a bunch of other games I've seen where there's 15 different factions, but like you're only getting 2 unless you buy a lot more. But that's because they're more of skirmish miniature war games where you're like, hey, here's the angels versus the demons, and then you can buy robots and then grab.
No, it's not like that kind of thing. It's much more scenario or event driven.
Okay.
I think I was talking about this. Like at certain points, like once people gain certain number of points in the game, like certain events will happen in the game that will change the mechanics of certain things, or like give other factions more advantage than others. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think they put a lot of like time and effort into it, but that didn't feel like an expansion. I think if they had just said like, no, the game's $250, it comes with 9 factions, you can play with up to 6 of them, as opposed to here the game's $150.
Spend $100 more for some more guys.
Right. Like, and you can't even play up to the max number of people with what you have here.
Oh, Kickstarter. Kickstarter and expansions.
But, yeah, I mean, and to be said, a $250 board game is a lot.
What?
It's a lot.
I've never done that.
I mean, I've definitely spent that much, including expansions. I don't know if I've thrown that much onto a base game, though.
You got close. With Armada.
Now that's an interesting dynamic, because don't each of those additional ships count as expansions?
Well, I mean, you bought 2 base games.
That's $100
each.
No. I bought them on sale.
Oh, okay. I thought there.
That's why I bought the second one, is because it was $50.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I think I pre-ordered the one for $60.
Got it.
This was before the Fantasy Flight
price surge.
Price surge.
Which I haven't seen too much of.
No. Part of that's just because not a lot of Fantasy Flight games have been coming out that I'm like, ooh, I have to get that.
Yeah, it's mainly been like expansions for Imperial Assaults.
Yeah. Although I did just get 2.
Oh, the Carillion effect.
I haven't gotten that one yet.
Oh, okay.
No, I was talking about
New Angeles.
New Angeles, which I have not played yet. I'm probably going to have to enlist James to help me out with that one, because it's rules heavy, and he's the kind of guy that likes getting into that kind of stuff, and I don't. Lawyers, man.
I'm going to read this RPG for fun.
Yep.
What?
Lawyers.
I'm scared to open up my Star Wars RPG source book.
That one's pretty easy. That's not a lot of mechanic.
Have you played it, or you just listened to it?
The Force of Destiny?
Well, I don't have Force of Destiny. I have,
which one do you have?
Edge of Empire.
Is that the D20 based one, or is that?
No, it's. I believe it's the first Fantasy Flight RPG, kind of like about like bounty hunters and scoundrels on the edge of the Empire.
Well, mechanics-wise, the mechanics on that one is pretty easy. I think they're basing it a lot of what's been out before, so it's kind of intuitive if you've played a lot.
I mean, I do have a beginner game that I would, when I find time and just things are relaxed a little bit, I might just bust it out and do like a sample campaign of that, because it has the pre-generated characters and just follow this campaign. Like, okay, I'll just do it to see how it is.
Expansions.
What? It's not expansions. But like, actually, people said it's probably best to do that because it comes with a dice, and apparently the dice are really hard to find. Like the special Star Wars dice.
Special, okay.
Well, because Fantasy Flight, everything has its own special dice.
Right. That's true.
And it comes with like, I mean, I'm thinking more of like, I think it was like $20. So $10 for dice, and then another $10 for a sample story, a quick reference, learn how to play, bunch of character sheets that I could just use as NPCs for future stories, and then it comes with a map of a ship. So technically, if you need a visual thing, yeah, and then I already have a DM screen and have the base game source book. So yeah.
Expansions.
I don't know if I'll go into those expansions because they have all those. Like, it'd be cool to get those deck card expansions for the RPG, but that would be more so people playing and buying their own expansions.
Yeah, I mean, I treat source books for RPGs the same way that I approach expansions. Like, I definitely weigh how much more stuff that it does add to the game.
Yeah.
Like, and two, do I feel like there's something in the game that I'm playing now that could be added to? Like for instance, Through the Breach, I feel like there's gaps. There's huge gaps. Dynamite, and maybe we're just bad at reading rules, but I have not found anything about Dynamite. But then, like, martial arts, in general, like, there's only one mention of like the 10 Thunders, which are kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially like in the Malifaux arena, and like there's so little source material in Through the Breach on those, and I imagine that's going to be what a new source book is going to be, except they've wasted their time on like necromancers, gremlins, and the
swamp,
the Union.
Oh, okay. I wonder if not. I mean, it would be kind of poor, but I wonder if you bought the Malifaux miniatures of 10 Thunders, if they would give you more insight on. No.
I mean, technically, like they'd have the card that I could use as a enemy, but
won't go into detail about learning martial arts.
Yeah, it won't change the mechanic of the game.
Got it.
Yeah, or add like character classes built around that kind of. Yeah, there's not even like a lot of sneaky characters. Like they have like the Infiltrator and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, I don't think in the Western times there was much sneaking around.
Yeah, there's con men.
Yeah.
Snake oil salesman. Like, there's some shady folk out there, and they just don't. Yeah, they've focused pretty heavily on the magic and the combat, and like this weird amalgam of like social and smart, but like very basic in that regard. I don't know. In either case, like that's a game like when source books come out that I'm like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Just add more to this game. It doesn't need it, when I say needs it, I don't mean to say that I can't have fun with it now.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things like, yeah, this thing is just asking for expansion, and it's probably built explicitly that way. These guys aren't idiots; they know how to continue to sell their product. But, yeah, that's.
So, last question: which is worst with expansions? RPGs. I feel like it's too easy. CCGs, because CCGs would beat out RPGs.
When you say worst, what do you mean?
I guess most demanding. I guess CCG's got to beat RPGs, or does it?
Yeah, I would say you don't have to have any source books to play an RPG. And technically, you don't have to have any expansions to play CCG. Except CCGs are explicitly competitive.
Yeah.
And to stay competitive without buying expansions, it's
impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah, because they force you to buy it.
Yeah. Like the rules of tournaments will sometimes completely change based on the cards that are coming out in the new expansion. And if you're essentially bringing a knife to a gunfight, you're going to be at a severe disadvantage.
It's a big knife.
It's a throwing knife.
Yes. All right, that will do it for our expansions episode 34, where you can do our social stuff. NT Board Games, we're out there.
Yeah,
all over the place.
And we actually have our RPG recorded stuff out.
Yep,
out there too.
Every Friday there's an RPG. Of course, we might have an empty Friday in March.
Yeah,
unless like I really cut up episodes short.
It can't be terrible.
Yeah, we'll see.
Unless, of course, the short episodes are just boring because it's just nothing happens because it's so short.
We'll see. I'll try not to skimp out.
Right. What's that thing? Don't care. Moving on. Well, that was a short episode.
Yes. But yeah, we have more stuff, and I think that's. I don't have anything else, so that'll do it.
Okay. Excellent.
Bye.
Let's play some games.